And this morning for some of you on the West Coast. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Ken, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Welcome, everyone. This is Ken Ackerman. I will be presenting today's webinar. I very much appreciate your joining us, and I hope you'll find this informative and hopefully also some material that you can put to use in the work that you're doing. As you've registered, you know today we're covering strengthening financial capability and advancing asset development among low-income families. There will be a recording available of this webinar afterwards, as well as an actual copy of this presentation, and so we will send you a follow-up email with links to both of those items. Very briefly, I've been active with community action for quite a while, since 1971. In fact, I served as an executive director of a regional community action agency in Virginia for nearly 25 years. And in that work, a lot of what I achieved was learning good ideas from my colleagues within Virginia and throughout the country. And based on that experience in 2002, I began working with some national effort to get virtual CAP launched through Federal Office of Community Services funding. I hope all of you are familiar with virtualcap.org. There's a wealth of resources on there, some of which we'll be sharing in this webinar. More recently, I've been involved with the National Association for Community Services Programs, NASCAS, which is the National Organization for State CSBG and Weatherization Program Administrators. We've been working to pull together resources identifying evidence-based and evidence-informed practices, as well as exemplary and promising practices. In this webinar, we will be sharing some of those with you as well. Moving into the matter at hand, we will have three portions to the webinar, starting off with the whole concept of thinking about what economic security really entails. Before we can get into strengthening financial capability and advancing asset development, I think it's critical that we lay the groundwork in looking at what do we mean by economic security. In my work as a community action director, I was often in meetings, in local meetings in the community, people sitting around from year to year looking at each other saying, what are we going to do about poverty? And I would very simply say, do the math. How much does it cost in our community to afford housing? How much is transportation, child care, food, all the equations that go together to really looking at what it takes to be self-sufficient? So that was a quick and easy response to that question. However, unfortunately, we didn't have quick access to the math. And what I'm pleased to say, which I often share in presentations that I make, that there are several databases now where the math has been done for us. And I have three particular databases that I want to present to you to start off this session. The first one is known as the self-sufficiency standard. Presently, it's being offered by the Center for Women's Welfare under the University of Washington School of Social Work. You can see there's a map of the United States on this particular slide. If you access the self-sufficiency-standard.org, you can go to the states in blue and access some of the data for your state. Showing you an example of what that data will look like, here's a particular self-sufficiency standard in Larimer County, Colorado, where Fort Collins is located, the home of the Colorado State University. And what's really the key to this database, if you look on the left-hand side of the screen, many of you are, I'm sure, familiar with this, this format, shows you the various elements that families, the various costs of living within their own community. The neat thing about the self-sufficiency standard is that it's broken down to the local level, to every county and to municipalities in the states that are featured. So the other neat thing is that there are many different family types that are shown. So if you take the federal poverty guidelines, for example, you have a family of 1, 2, or 3, or 4 persons. This one takes those numbers and breaks it out even more. So a family of 3, if you look toward the center of this chart, can be comprised of a single adult with children of different ages, and accordingly the self-sufficiency costs will vary depending on the type of family. Now, while their charts show you 8 different family types, the database, which are accessible through their website, believe it or not, have 152 different family types, at least for Colorado, and it will vary state by state. I highlighted in the center of this chart a sample family of 1 adult, a single adult with a preschooler and school-age child. And if you go down to the bottom of the screen there in the center, you'll see the monthly income is $4,286 to meet the costs, the basic living costs in Larimer County, Colorado, which comes out to about $24.35 per hour. Now, if you take that data in the green at the bottom, you have your $24.35 self-sufficiency standard. You'll notice that the hourly wage for the 10 largest occupations in Colorado basically aren't going to help families really attain self-sufficiency. And in fact, if you look at it, 6 of the 10 top occupations in Colorado are below a self-sufficiency wage, not only below, but significantly below, ranging from just above minimum wage in some cases up to about maybe 2/3 of what the self-sufficiency wage would be. And in fact, for all occupations at the top, you'll notice $18.19 is the median wage, which is about 3/4 of the self-sufficiency wage for all jobs in Colorado. Looking at trends, we must ask the question, are we getting better or are we getting worse? I think that's a pretty easy question to answer. And if you notice the trend here, the annual self-sufficiency wage from the year 2001 to 2011 has gone up 40%, from $36,797 to over $51,000. At the same time, the median earnings in Larimer County have only gone up 8%, a tremendous trend difference between self-sufficiency costs and earnings. In fact, if you look at inflation below, the 10-year inflation rate was 27%. So the median earnings didn't even come close to keeping up with inflation over that period. So that's one set of data. A second one is presently offered through the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. You can click on the image. In most of these slides, if you click on the image or the link that's shown on the slide, you can access the material that I'm presenting to you. This one has a state-by-state living wage calculator for all states. And again, I'm giving you an example from an area, happens to be the county that I live in. You'll find this for all the data that you pull down off the living wage calculator. On the left, we have 3 levels of hourly wages, starting with minimum wage, going up to what it would take to reach the federal poverty level, and then finally what it takes in this particular county for living wage. It's interesting, of course, to see the poverty wage when we talk about helping families get out of poverty is $8.80, according to federal poverty guidelines. However, if we talk about helping families really move toward economic security, the living wage is nearly 3 times what the poverty wage would be, an incredible disparity. The bottom of the chart there, again, shows the different components that are used to calculate the living wage. And as in the previous model, they also provide typical occupations and what the wages are in those occupations. If you take what the living wage was in this community of $25 an hour, you'll see that 13 out of 22 occupations are below the living wage, and most of them significantly below. And these are the types of jobs that the people who we're working with in community action often are qualified for initially, and will end up, if they can become employed, will end up moving into these types of positions. So it's very important data to have at hand. The last database is our Economic Security Institute website provided by Wider Opportunities for Women, a national organization based in Washington, D.C. There are two parts of this database that I'd like to offer to you, as you notice on the right-hand side of the image there. One is the Economic Security Database, and then secondly, the Economic Security Scorecard. The Economic Security Database will move into the newest version of self-sufficiency data that I've been able to find, called the Basic Economic Security Tables, also known as BEST. And this is, I think, quite a useful model because it takes the self-sufficiency data and then builds into it even more information that really helps look at what it takes to move truly toward economic security. Let's look at an example of their data for an area in Jefferson County, Missouri, in fact. I've built into this taking the same family type as we had in the previous database models. So you can see one worker, an adult with a preschool and a school child in the family, a family of 3. And if you notice the items that are listed on the chart here, many of them parallel what we've seen on the other two. However, in the highlighted areas in brown and yellow there, I've shown you that they've added two key areas here. One are savings, both in terms of emergency and retirement savings on a monthly basis, and secondly, in terms of asset development. And they, as I understand the calculations that went into asset development, which we'll be getting into later, reflect having monthly savings for their children's education over a 10-year period, over a 17-year period, and having savings for home ownership over a 10-year period. Now, Wider Opportunities through their Economic Security Institute also have this Economic Security Scorecard. This, in fact, is provided for each state in the United States. I should have mentioned the BEST tables, unfortunately, do not cover every state, but you can certainly use this framework to expand data that you could pull together as well. And what's interesting about the state-by-state Economic Security Scorecard is that it shows how they rate or grade states under 5 specific areas: under income, job quality, public assistance, education, and assets. So as you look through this, you will be able to access all this material when I send you the presentation. You can see the sources and how they define the criteria in each of those 5 areas. And then go, Somehow I lost track of the state I was in. I'm so sorry. I'm back to Indiana. Okay, and you can see what your state is in, what grade your scorecard for your state is, and then focus on those particular areas primarily for your advocacy efforts as well as for your program development efforts. And then finally, having all that data at our hand for our own local communities, I think the key is to begin using that to further build awareness on the aspects of poverty and the challenges of poverty that so many people really have no strong awareness of what it's about in terms of being confronted with a low-wage position with high costs of housing and transportation and child care. One of the best tools that I've found, and I've gotten really good feedback about this as we put it out on Virtual CAP, is this online simulation called SPENT, which you see in the middle of the slide there. What it does is you're able to go through the simulation selecting one of 3 job types, and you see that in the center: a restaurant server, a warehouse worker, or a temporary position. And once you do that, they give you the earnings that you'll have, and then pose to you a series of choices that families have on a day-to-day basis in the course of a month in terms of how will you get to work, what type of transportation will you use, what type of child care will you set up for your child, How will you handle your food purchases? And it goes through all the elements similar to what the various databases we looked at have in terms of the cost of living. And it's interesting. I encourage each of you to try this simulation and see how far through the month will your earnings in these positions last as you make choices that you think are logical and beneficial to meeting the needs of your family. At the bottom, there are 2 links to features of the month that we put out on Virtual CAP with other tools that you can use to further awareness on poverty as well as homelessness. Okay, I'd like to launch a poll, and I'm really interested in learning what type of background we have here with your work that you're doing in these areas. So the first one I want to ask, if you wouldn't mind, is what is your knowledge and expertise with financial literacy? So you have 5 choices there. I'm just curious to see if I'm preaching to the choir or whether we have folks who are just kind of putting their toes in the water and getting involved, which is fine. Give a few more moments to get through the poll here. Okay. Have 82% have voted. And let's see. I'm going to close out the poll now. We'll give you a few more seconds. Okay, we almost have 90%. That's great. If we could get that much turnout at the elections upcoming in November, I think we'd be doing really well. Okay, so I'm going to share the results now. And let's see. Okay, and there are poll results. And it looks like we have about a split here with most of the people saying they have average experience and knowledge with financial literacy. Okay, let's see. Bear with me. I'm trying to refine where the mechanism here is to go back to the slideshow. Okay. We have Jay Andrews from VACAP here. Jay, I'm asking you, how do I close out the poll results? Please help me.
Click the hide button. There, I've done it.
Okay, we're good. Okay. By the way, while I'm resetting the slideshow, I'd like to mention that, as I said, the work that I've been doing over the past 3 years have been working in partnership with NASCAS, who in fact is also sponsoring this webinar, and I'd like to acknowledge their support of this work and of this particular session. Okay, looking at strengthening financial capability, I'm going to start this off with a study that you can find. If you notice, there's an asterisk at the title of this slide, referring us back to the resources that are available through the CSBG Resource Bank. That link will direct you to the CSBG Training and Technical Assistance Center. And on there, there's a resource bank where materials such as some of the items, including this one in the webinar today, are located. I encourage you to access the TNTA Center and to look at the resource bank. There's a ton of material there that I think you'll find to be of interest and use. It takes a very quick, free registration process to get onto that. So looking at this financial capability study, 2 of them have been conducted. This is the most recent one. Another one was done about 3 years ago. And I want to share some of the findings that I think are really key in looking at, again, the challenges the families we're working with are facing, the experience that they're bringing, the financial experiences they're bringing with them, and also to help heighten awareness, again, with at a community level in the work that we're doing. If you look at the first graph in this image here, in this slide, you'll see it looks at the incoming and outgoing income, meaning how much are people earning and how much are they spending. And the chart on the upper left-hand corner reflects 3 levels of responses. Individuals who are spending less than they earn, individuals who are breaking even, and individuals who are spending more. And if you add the last 2 together, because when you break even, you're really on the margin, you come up with over 50% are having a hard time making ends meet. That's really a high level when you think that this is not just among low-income families. This is a survey that was done of 25,000 residents. It was done scientifically based on the different demographics of the census. And again, if you consider that over 50% are really on the margin, or at least on the margin, if not falling behind every month, I think that is really substantial. Second that I'd like to share with you is the whole area of financial products. And in this area, we're talking about issues such as payday loans, using pawn shops, rent-to-own stores, etc., not having access to traditional financial institutions and products. And in this one, you notice about 30% responding to the survey on the upper left-hand corner have been using non-financial borrowing products. And similarly, about a third only pay the minimum on credit cards, which in the long term definitely impact future credit ratings and financial stability issues. The last chart, which is a very interesting one, it came up under the basic economic security table, has to do with rainy day funds, as they put it in this survey. If you remember, under the basic economic security table chart, they called it emergency funds. And the best table says that's very important to include that in an equation and looking at long-term family financial security. Not only long-term, but intergenerational, some of these areas. This particular survey shows that 40% of the respondents had a fund, but more than half did not. And if you look, this trend over the 3-year period hasn't gotten any better. In fact, it's gotten a little bit better, but not much. Now, as with the other databases, if you click on the image with the U.S. map on it, you can get this specific data for your date as well, for your state as well, excuse me. Okay. Now, the title of this webinar was Helping Families Move Toward Increase Their Financial Capability. And that was very deliberately chosen, largely from a report such as the one you see on your screen now. I think for the past, I don't know, 5 or 8 years, the notion of financial education and financial literacy, asset development, all of those concepts have been growing within the Community Action Network. And in many cases, maybe unspokenly, the work includes helping families build their financial capability. But I want to distinguish between financial education and financial capability. And if you see very easily on the right-hand side of the screen there, financial education, in effect, is a set of provider outputs. How many people have attended our financial classes? How many have completed the curriculum? How many have set up a bank account, et cetera, created a budget? Those are all outputs of the work that we do. The financial capability takes some of that and then builds upon it into what's viewed more as consumer outcomes, which obviously is a big push not only in this area but in all the work that we do. So it's taking financial education is part of financial capability. And if you look at the box there, there are 5 bullets showing some of the traditional elements that are included with financial capability. It's not just knowledge, but it's actually taking action. So the first one, covering your monthly expenses with income, beginning to do that. Tracking your spending, saving for the future, using financial products and services, and finally exercising your knowledge. In the report, they come up with 4 facets that they found to be most effective in working on financial capability. One of them is being relevant, looking at the specific concerns and financial situations that people are coming with in working with you. And part of that is also being timely, coinciding with a specific event or a moment of beginning to think further and take action on financial aspects of life. The ongoing long-term relationships, we'll get into that a little bit later in some of the financial capability work that I'll be sharing with you, and then helping the participants put their knowledge into action. They look at two facets of this. One, the degree of the consumer commitment, and two, the degree of the delivery that that we as service providers offer. So there are three levels of consumer commitment, from communication to knowledge to engagement. And as you might imagine, in that order, they begin with lower touch, meaning less involved, less intensive types of work, to higher touch, more long-term, deeper involvement that financial engagement, for example, offers. And there's more information in this report on those different elements. What I want to do as we close out this part of the webinar is share with you some resources that more than likely many of you are familiar with, but if not, hopefully you'll find one or two that you might want to add with the work that you're carrying out. First one is the asset platform. If you read down on the left-hand side of the screen the range of resources that they offer, once you open up any one of those areas, you have a number of different types of tools that you can use in terms of setting your financial goals, budgeting, saving, investing, and so on, looking at credit reports, credit scores, which you can use at a staff level, and then some of these also you'll be able to use directly in the work that you're doing. There are also some very useful payment calculators that the asset platform offers in terms of credit card and revolving loan calculations, as well as mortgages, car loans, and other types of term loans. One that is quite well known is from the FDIC, the Money Smart curriculum. On this, you notice they have topics listed. There are 11 topics altogether. And there are two versions of this. One is an instructor-led version, and the other is an online version that can be self-directed. There is a registration process, but it's quite well known and highly regarded, the Money Smart curriculum from FDIC. Another one that I like to share is from Minnesota. This is called the 4 Cornerstones of Financial Literacy. This was actually created through a federal grant awarded to the Office of Economic Opportunity in Minnesota. And it is a quite highly regarded curriculum. It's an 84-page document that includes guidance under those areas that you see. The 4 areas are budgeting to create savings, debt reduction and asset building, building a good credit rating, and finally consumer protection and financial institutions. So there are guidance offered on each of those components, as well as then quite a few really good worksheets. If you notice, there's a leader guide that you can access, both a PDF copy as well as a Word version, which means you can print out and use those documents in your work. They have a website, Help Minnesota Save, Help MN Save. You can access that and get further resources directly from their website. The Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas offers another manual, as well as an online accompanying version of their Beginner's Guide to Securing Your Financial Future. They have an instructor's manual, which you can access through this presentation. You'll have the link there. And this one is available in English and in Spanish. It also has illustrations with examples, case study type examples, and worksheets. There's an overview of each topic, and then very very user-friendly tools within it for the participants in your program. I think this one is certainly well worth reviewing. And as I go through these, I want to mention that it's hard to say this is the one you should use. What I found is that many programs take pieces from different resources. Now, you may find one that really suits your needs and the clientele that you're working with, and that's great. But I think it's good to be able to review more than one particular reference guide here and use the one that you think fits what you're working with best. And in fact, the next one is a very new, just about a week old, in fact, study that was done by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They did some surveys of groups that are doing financial empowerment training. And they did some on-site intensive interviews with a handful of I think it was 5 total, that are very highly regarded. And in that, they came up with some findings that I'd like to share with you. If you go to that report and go to the promising approaches, which is on approximately page 30 of the report, you'll find they came up with these findings. One of them is to have all of your case managers and staff using the same curriculum. So in other words, pick one or consolidate, adapt from several, but have one curriculum that you're using within your own program. Secondly, include using a tools-based curriculum. So don't just give out information, but help use some of the tools, as I mentioned, the worksheets and exercises that the various models offer. But at the same time, build flexibility into your case manager's use of this information and tools. Again, being relevant to the individual, not expecting that the entire group is going to be at the same level and have the same needs. Here's an interesting one. They suggest helping your case managers themselves address their own financial issues. Food for thought. And lastly, the whole notion of culturally diverse audiences and having your materials relevant to the different cultural groups that you're working with. Okay, here's yet another guide. I hope I'm not overwhelming with all of these resources, overwhelming you. But this one comes out of a group from Washington State called Port Jobs. They have a 140-page financial mentoring program guide. And it's really, I found it to be really interesting. What it has, it's based on 4 models, 4 components: credit and loans, money management, financial services, and financial planning. And what's neat about this guide is that they provide you all of their learning modules and the materials that they present in their program. By the way, if you notice the asterisk at the top, again, this is one of the resources available through the CSBG Resource Bank. Okay. And lastly, if I haven't shown you enough, you can go on to Virtual Cap. We have Virtual Cap resource information. And some of the examples that I've already shared with you are part of this, but we have others as well under financial literacy education resources. Okay, I have another poll. And here we go. Here's poll number 2. It's the same question, but now I'm curious about your knowledge and experience with asset development. Okay, so the poll is launched, and let's see what kind of responses we get here. Okay, about 2/3 have responded. I'll give you a few more seconds here. We have about 80%. Okay. And I'm seeing the responses. It looks like we're somewhat similar to what we saw under the financial literacy question. Okay, I'm going to close this out now, and I will share with you. Okay, and you can see, I hope. There you go. and you can see what the results are. So about, I guess, average and below is almost 80%. So this is hopefully new information or added information that you can take advantage of. Okay, back to where we are here. Okay, I'm going back to CFED, which we looked at earlier under one of the items under financial capability. And they've constructed what they call their Household Financial Security Network. This is a continuum which takes us toward asset development. So we start looking at building knowledge through learn, looking at the incoming income, if that's not redundant, the earnings of people, and helping advance people within the workforce, whether it's through career pathways or further training in existing positions, et cetera. Building in benefits such as EITC to help elevate income, saving over time to begin stabilizing finances, and then moving into asset development with investing and protecting those assets, not using predatory loans and other types of products outside of mainstream financial opportunities. So if we look at CFED, I don't know if you're familiar with this or not, but they have an assets and opportunity scorecard. Not quite the same as the one that we saw earlier, the basic economic security table from the Economic Security Institute, their scorecard. This one has 5 dimensions shown at the bottom. And you can see the issue areas of financial assets and income, business and jobs, housing and homeownership, healthcare, and education. And if you, this particular map shows the range of states according to ranking, from the one who show the highest rankings to the ones who've shown the lowest ones. And then they take each of the 5 areas, and this one happens to be financial assets and income, and they show you how they calculate their outcome for the grades, the different measures that are used, and also show you the trends over time in those areas. This is very useful information for your program to see the kinds of issues that families have to confront and where they stand in these areas, whether it's credit card debt, liquid assets, etc. So please become familiar with this if you feel this would be a value to your program. They have this particular framework for each of the 5 areas. This one happens to be financial assets and income. And then finally, the state rankings. Here I show New Jersey. In New Jersey, you can see they did well in education, didn't do well in a few other areas, and housing and home ownership needs a lot of work. So if you go on your state and you look at your ranking and look at each tab for the 5 areas that are shown, they'll show you how that ranking was achieved, and then give some suggestions on what kind of policy issues can be promoted to help advance work in these areas. And this is a body of information that I'm kind of going to use to build out more tools that you can access. It's a report that's available through the CSBG Resource Bank, if you notice the asterisk, okay? And it gives 6 strategies that they have developed to build assets among low-income families. And I'm going to go through 5 of them with you. The first one, which we've spent a lot of time covering so far, is financial literacy, education, and financial capability. Within the report, they give you some model programs and resources you can access. This is on strategy 1. You can see it on each of the strategies. So I'm not going to go any further on this particular one. Strategy 2, however, is opportunities and incentives to save. I recommend to you the national organization called America Saves. This is their homepage. If you see the drop-down menu that I left on this image here, they show you 5 areas to encourage savings and help create savings in. If you notice, one of them is Save for Emergencies. Another one is Save for Home. Remember, those were not in the self-sufficiency standard equation. They were in the economic security table. So if we're talking about economic security, those are the things that we need to be building into what we're interested in building. And two other areas that offer resources, and there are many more. I'm giving you what I find to be, I think, really good, extensive series of resources. Here's CFED. Yet once again, they have a feature on individual development accounts, which are match saving programs where the participant will put $1 in, and then through program resources, there are matches, whether it's 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1, or further than that. In particular, I wanted to point out underneath the individual development account image, the CFED links, and particularly on the program design resources. In fact, if I were to open that, I'm not sure I'm going to give it a try. Actually, I'm afraid I'm going to lose the slide here, but okay. Okay, here we go. So here is the page, I believe. Yeah, okay. So here's the page on CFED's Individual Development Account Program Design. And if you scroll down the page, you can see they offer you tools on basically every single facet of developing your IDA program. It's from soup to nuts, I guarantee you. So please take advantage of what CFED offers you. I'm going to go back to our slideshow here. Okay. Hopefully I'll be getting that for you. Should be. Okay. So you see the CFED program design resources. The AFI program, as it's called, is under the Office of Community Services, Assets for Independence. Traditionally, this program has unused funds. There will be further cycles after the first of the year for funding applications. The federal grant gives you some support. Some of that money needs to be used for matching participant savings. Others can be used for program operations. It's up to the organization to build other matching resources as well, which can be challenging, but it can be achieved. There are many AFI programs in operation right now. Strategy 3 is accessing mainstream financial services. The national group called Bank On. It happens to show Toledo, Ohio, but that's just one of many that they show on their home page. Go to joinbankon.org. I wanted to share the work that's being done in Virginia Beach, Virginia, which is the state I'm located in. Just as an illustration, the Bank On programs are, there's flexibility for local design of the Bank On program. The main focus of the program is to help create relationships with the financial institutions, the nonprofit organizations, private sector, and low-income families and unbanked families in your community. Bank On Virginia Beach, what I really like about it, among other things, is the mayor of the city has put out what he calls the Mayor's Action Challenge to help develop at least 500 families who are financially fit for the future. And in doing that, they've created this, what's called Financial Empowerment Passport, which in effect help people look at building some sustainable income, creating written goals for themselves, emergency savings, as it's come up several times in this presentation, managing their debt obligations, being able to obtain traditional credit, and building assets for long-term sustainability. You can access the Empowerment Passport. You can access the lesson plans, just like we saw out of the Financial Mentoring Manual. So I strongly recommend looking at what's being done here. And in fact, they then have this checklist that I thought was really great on what it takes to be financially fit for the future. So if you open up the passport and go to pages 51 to 53, you'll see how they measure achieving these various benchmarks. Very well thought out and very worthy of adaptation. By the way, in the first 2 sessions that Bank on Virginia Beach has been active, they have nearly 150 graduates already, which means that these individuals have attended at least 7 out of 10 of their classes, and a number of them have gone on to complete the Mayor's Action Challenge. Strategy 4, increasing or supplementing low earnings. Tax credits is a big facet of that. Here is the National Group Tax Credits for Working Families. They have some state EITC campaign case studies. If you're pursuing seeing how this might be launched in your state, you can learn lessons learned and tips from these case studies. And the IRS also offers some data on which states do have state-level EITC, and in some areas, not many, a local EITC. So you can keep up with that and see what the different approaches are within the states that have adopted EITC provisions. Strategy 5, curb predatory lending. It's come up a few times. Unbanked families, as well as people who are behind on their credit and using non-bank lending sources. So these two have some great resources. The Center for Responsible Lending, you can see across their banner there the areas they cover, from mortgage lending, payday lending, all the way over to credit cards. And then finally also Don't Borrow Trouble, which has been of sorts a campaign throughout the country, although I wasn't able to access that many examples. But I found this one, Don't Borrow Trouble Minnesota, which gives you an idea of how they create public awareness about the problems that people encounter with high interest loans, with high fees, and the educational materials to try to help people understand that they're digging themselves deeper in debt often and in more dire financial straits. Having said that, here's some material that's been around for a number of years, created by the Annie E. Casey Foundation. If you look at the 2 videos, it's in the center there on the left and in the center. The Money Trap is a short version. Avoiding the Money Trap is a slightly longer version, about 25 minutes. These are really good videos of actual stories. It's targeted toward rural areas, but I would say that the circumstances can be universally applied, dealing with payday loans, high-interest car loans, high debt and poor credit, etc. And you can use these documentaries. They're online streaming, so you don't have to purchase them or get a DVD or any other way. They're online. Click on these images and you can review them. And you can use them to raise awareness among your policymakers, among people working in the community with you, as well as with the families who you're serving. And as before, we do have a discussion guide there that you can access to help with the work that you're doing with avoiding the money trap. Within that discussion guide, they have, for example, a sample agenda and discussion questions that you could put together in presentations of the video that you're conducting. And you notice at the bottom there's a Spanish version as well. I'm going to wind up here and see if we have time for questions, but before I do that, I want to make sure that I don't leave out the AFI Resource Center. Now, while this Resource Center initially was designed for AFI grantees, but now it's built out further, and you can use it whether or not you're an AFI grantee to access many different tools and resources to help with your work. If you see the images, they have general information as well as information for specific populations. They've also put together, the Administration for Children and Families, what's called the Asset Initiative, where they have their 6 fundamental asset building strategies you see in the color wheel that's shown there. We're probably getting a little repetitive here, but nonetheless, it's very nicely constructed, and it gives you a good summary of what these components are. There are fact sheets for each of those, and if you open up the fact sheets, it will give you programming ideas and as well as examples of successful programs. Now, one thing the Asset Initiative is targeting is to really advance the work that Head Start providers are involved with asset building. And if you have a Head Start program, I hope that you're familiar with Head Start Information Memorandum 1105. There's a copy there you can access, which really is encouraging Head Start families, as I said, to do more work directly with family financial security. There are resources for each of the 6 strategies, but I'm going to leave this saying there's also a chance to receive a small amount of funding, although the deadline is about 48 hours from now. Supposedly you've received this if you have a Head Start program. It's a very small amount, and if you are interested, being involved is a $5,000 grant. What it involves is getting technical assistance from CFED to really identify and implement innovative strategies to do this financial security work with Head Start families and your staff. Remembering I mentioned that earlier from another. And here's some examples of the strategies that they offer. So that's the presentation. Here's a flyer showing you all that you can access on virtualcap.org. You can download that through the link when you get the presentation. And also you can keep up with what we're doing on Virtual Cap through Twitter by subscribing to one of our 2 RSS feeds, or by or putting your email in and getting our monthly alerts. Lastly, if there's anything I've overlooked, or if you have comments or specific areas you'd like to have further discussion with, please get in touch with me. I'm very accessible in that way. So I think we have not quite 10 minutes left, but what I'd like to say is thank you very much for joining this presentation. And if you have any questions or comments, would you please feel free to submit them, or if you'd like, you can raise your hand if we can open up the audio at that time as well. So are there any particular questions or items that you'd like to have more information about, or suggestions that you might have on what you're using in your program to help the listeners and me as well learn some other resources?
Ken, you have a question in the question box.
Okay, I will get in the question box. Okay. When they're okay, the question is, what suggestions do you have to help families build assets when their source of income is benefits-based? That is a challenge. I almost would like to open it up to the participants to reply to that. But, you know, it's interesting. If we go back to the early part of the presentation today with the self-sufficiency standard, the basic economic security tables, et cetera, recalling the math that went into the equation, whether it's cost of housing, the cost of child care, cost of transportation, the cost of food, access to affordable food, affordable goods and services. There's 2 sides of the equation. One is the income side, and the other is the expense side. So I think it's up to us to do as much as we can with the expense side as well as the income side. In other words, building more affordable housing, helping with child care subsidies, helping with access to affordable, lower cost food as opposed to having to buy from convenience stores or whatever. Those are some of the parts that I think have an effect on helping families stabilize themselves with limited income. But I don't suggest that I have the perfect answer for that. If someone would like to type in a response, we would certainly entertain that. Okay. Are there any other topics or comments, questions? We have a little bit of time. I hope I didn't go over this too quickly. I felt somewhat a bit of pressure because there is such a great amount of material. I don't see any other questions. Do we have any hands raised? I don't know how let's see. I don't think we have any hands raised. You're welcome to do that if you'd like to make a comment through the audio. No? Okay. Well, I'm not going to hold people longer than necessary. I hope this has been of interest and of use. We will send you the link to the recording as well as a copy of the presentation. Feel free to reply to the email if you have something specific you would like me to follow up on. Okay?
Ken, there's one more question.
One more question. I knew if I filibustered, we might find another one.
Two more
Do you know of any CAPs besides us utilizing asset building resources such as hometown competitiveness or micro business development? Well, hometown competitiveness, I'm not sure I'm familiar specifically what that is, but micro business development, the answer is absolutely. There's some fantastic work being done around the country with micro business development. In fact, one of the recipients of an award at the Community Action National Conference in Chicago in August is called MADE, MADE in Missouri. And that is through a community action agency, the Missouri Valley Community Action Agency, that does a statewide competition to help generate entrepreneurialism within the state. But that's only one example. Yes, the answer is there are many agencies throughout the United States. Some of them are on virtual CAP under asset development. But I'd be glad to send some of that information out with a follow-up email. Okay. And is there anything else? I don't think so. I'm still trying to filibuster. I see it's 2:57 Eastern Time, so we're in on time, and I'm happy to have achieved that. Okay. Okay, again, I'd like to thank NASCASP for sponsoring this session. I'd like to thank Jay Andrews for facilitating the technological part, which I am not a techie. Some people think I am. Maybe I'm learning as I go. And I wish you all a good day and hope to hear from you as you have ideas or areas you'd like to explore further. Okay, thank you very much, and we're going to close out the webinar now.